Good morning, boxing fans. Welcome to the Zapata Brand Boxing Podcast. Putting a quick update today in together, giving you all the greatest boxing news and also giving you an update of my big fight, my training camp right now. Just started for the April 27th fight here in Berwick at 7 p.m. But first, we got to go into the breaking news that happened last night, which may not be breaking news. We'll cover that. We'll also cover Shakur Stephenson. Shakur Stephenson announcing his retirement. I think it's more of a frustration retirement. And I'll tell you what I believe will happen next. That and a whole bunch more on the Zapata Brand Boxing Podcast. Okay, guys, welcome back to the Zapata Brand Boxing Podcast. And here we go with the news of the day. Late last night, it was announced, reported by ESPN, an ESPN Mexican reporter, and he reported that Canelo Alvarez's next fights will include Jermell Charlo and Terence Bud Crawford in September. May being Charlo, Crawford being in September. This came out of nowhere because I didn't believe that would be the way they would go. It makes sense in the sense that it's a super fight that I think Canelo is more comfortable with. However, I don't know if it makes sense for the fact that he's going to get a lot of. Well, Canelo's in between a rock and a hard place either way. He doesn't fight Benavidez. He's ducked. He didn't fight Crawford, or if he fights Crawford, he's going after a small guy. So he's kind of in the middle here. And ultimately, he's got to make a choice as to what he wants to do. But he holds all the cards. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. At this point, I think his legacy is pretty much set in stone. He was probably the greatest Mexican fighter of our generation. We're coming out of the generation of Chavez, where I grew up. Chavez was the greatest of all time. And then here comes Canelo. Canelo is one of the greatest fighters, Mexican fighters there has ever been. He just didn't garner the Mexican that heart and soul that a Mexican fighter has and he's a great fighter, but he just didn't get it from the older generation because they just couldn't pass. It's similar to like, you get the people who have Jordan and LeBron. My kid loves LeBron. He's never seen Jordan. He never saw how Jordan played. So it's kind of like the passing of the guard doesn't go over well. So he didn't get that kind of fanfare, which may have been unfair because he fought everybody. Canelo fought everybody, and the only one he lost to was an undefeated fighter, never lost, Floyd Mayweather, the greatest fighter that I've seen in my generation ever. So where does that leave this fight with Benavidez? Probably on the outskirts of possibly next May, but I don't know at this point because here's why. This reporter, ESPN Chavo, he reported it. And it's on ESPN. He says his sources say that it's a done deal, it's close, or it's a done deal, one or the other. But it's going to happen. However, I reached out to someone who is very close to the situation. He said no, so that's not happening. No way. Possibility in next May, but no, not this year. I don't know who to believe. I'm up in the air because I think it makes sense to be Crawford if you want a big fight. But why would you not take Munguia out and then solidify that with Bud in May, make it a super fight and go away? Because David Benavidez, I do believe Canelo will beat him at this point. I think he beats him. But that would be the fight that's the most dangerous. The most dangerous would be Benavidez. Bud Crawford would be an easier fight for a super fight because the deck is stacked against Crawford as opposed to Canelo. The only thing is, if Canelo loses, it's bad. Crawford wins or Crawford loses, well, so what? He dared to be great. So the only one in this position that's taking the risk is Canelo because he's in a no-win situation. No win with Crawford. Because if he wins, I'm telling you, if he wins, they're going to say he fought a small guy. If he loses, he was never that good. He avoided slick black fighters. So why would you take the fight? Makes no sense to me. I think you fight Munguia, And then you fight David Benavidez, which I think then solidifies him. If he wins, solidifies him as the best Mexican fighter of our generation. I don't think he would ever get to the Chavez level just because there's just something that Chavez had that Canelo didn't have, and I don't know what it is. I think sometimes people tend to get a little bit jealous. I always go back to that 50 Cent lyric where he said, I try to make it out and you guys try to pull me back in. And then he's a sucker because he made it out. Um, you know, I think the American dream is to make it out of the street, make it out, make somebody for it. And I'll go with that with Bill Haney, what Bill Haney said. You know, Bill Haney and his last fight with Devin's last fight with Regis Prograis got a lot of heat saying, well, Devin Haney he's a homeschool kid. He's not from the street. To a point, yeah, he's not. But that doesn't mean he's not a great fighter. He is. And the other thing is, isn't that a good thing? That his nose is clean, doesn't gamble, doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs. Never in trouble with the law. The one time was with the gun, but if you're that popular, I think you should have protection. And I'm sure he's has been trained how to use the gun. Uh, I just don't think that's that you'd want to be you got to be from the streets or whatever. And some people just think that you have to be from the street and be from the gutter to make it in boxing. Or you don't have that hunger. Well, clearly Devin Haney's had that hunger, and he lives a clean life. I think his dad has done a great job with him. I think we met Devin Haney, and I'll tell you the story. My son met Devin Haney at a barbershop in Vegas. He was getting his haircut there prior to us going there. We sat there and waited for him before my son was getting a haircut. And my son had asked him, can I get a picture with you? And he waited. When he was done, came over, talked to my son, talked to both of my children, and was incredibly nice. And this was after he just became Cambosis. He was a tremendously nice guy, a great kid. And that comes from his father and how he was brought up, because he could have been acting like a thug or what have you, because his security was there with him. And he was very like, no, I got it. We're good. Yeah, he might have felt unarmed because, I'm just standing there watching my kids get their haircut. Maybe that was it, but he was incredibly gracious, took pictures with my kids, talked to him about him fighting. My son's an amateur fighter, and he was unbelievably nice. So you don't have to have that. And I think in this world, sometimes we look at it as, oh, you have to be thugged out to be a good fighter. And I don't think that's true at all. So I think sometimes what happens is people think, well, you didn't come from the street. You didn't come from here. Canelo has multiple millions of dollars. He has multiple businesses. He's extremely successful. And I think some people just get angry and don't want to see someone do well. I want to see everybody do well. I want to see everybody do well. Especially when they're in business and they put their money up on there that they worked hard for. I want to see them do well. I really do. And I think that's sometimes what happens here. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So I think that's why Canelo doesn't really care much anymore. So with that being said, let's go on to the next subject. I just don't think he cares anymore. Well, next subject let's talk about is Shakur Stephenson. Shakur Stephenson said that, and let me get this quote here because I do not want anything to be taken out of context. So I will quickly look this up and see what he said. Now, this was, I think, in response to the fact that he was not given the championship title bout. On X, he said, "I'm officially retiring from the sport of boxing. I'll be in the gym forever practicing my craft and helping the next generation become great and chase the dreams he messed that up. And chase they dreams. But I ain't for this week boxing game? Uh, you know, I don't believe that that's true. I think he's frustrated. This reminds me of Telefimo Lopez when he got frustrated with the boxing game. And the reality is, boxing is just one of these sports where it is it's an ebb and flow. There's negotiations after negotiations. There's just dealing with managers, promoters. There's no league, so it's not like you can go, send your gripe to some guy who's the head of the commission. It's so outrageously bad. It works for what it's supposed to do. Lately, it hasn't worked. Not getting the fight you want to see, which makes it frustrating for the fan. It's not like the '90s where Don King kind of ran the show with Bob Arum. It's not like that anymore. Other people have jumped into the business, trying to clean it up. But I think they're just making the water muddier. I think Eddie Hearn does a good job. I really do. I think Golden Boy does a great job. But the reality is there's so much going on that you have to deal with outside of boxing that it gets you frustrated. And I could tell he's frustrated. I don't believe that he's going to retire. I don't think that's what he wants to do. I think reality is he wants to just have the point of saying, "Hey, man, I'm a commodity in this sport, and you're not making me." Well, I'm not going to say he's even a commodity. I'm going to say he's a superstar in the sport, and you're not making it that I want to be in this sport. But his last fight wasn't good, and they're not making those fights. Now he can say that he wants to make the fights with Devin Haney. Said he said in the contract and stuff, whatever. But you got to take a little bit to give a little bit. You got to give and take a little bit. You're chasing him. I go to where Devin Haney was chasing Kambosos. Agreed to stuff that he agreed to everything. Everything from the size of the ring to the time of the fight, who comes out first, how much money, rematch clause. He agreed to everything because he wanted to prove that he was great. And that was a very ballsy thing for him to do. He went out there and to prove to everybody that he's better than Kambosos, that he's willing to take the chance to go out and prove to everybody that he's the best. So, I mean, do I think this retirement's going to be long? No, this retirement's going to be very quick. Probably one of those 2 to 3 month retirements until someone, because I don't think he has generational wealth. I don't think so. I mean, he does. I think he lives in New Jersey, and it's expensive to live there. So I don't think he has that kind of wealth that he can maintain that lifestyle, unless he was very good with his money. But why would you not want to take a fight? If you're going to retire, take a fight with Haney that he offered you, 20% or whatever it was of the purse. Just take it. And then if you want to retire, if you really want to retire, just do that one last shot. And then you can take that money, put it in investments, live the rest of your life comfortable, and you're fine. I don't think that's the case here. First of all, he's 26. He's got his whole life ahead of him. He's got a great family. I don't know if he's married, but he has a child. I know that. So you kind of want to leave a legacy a little bit for your kids in that. So I think this will be a short retirement. I don't know what his next fight would be, but he's got to straighten out what's going on outside the ring. Now, Teofimo Lopez did that, I think, because he wanted a better agreement with his management or promotion. So that's where he's at, and I think he was smart because he's back in the ring and he's going to make some money. He's going to, and again, I think Teofimo Lopez is the one underdog here, or the one that dark horse that they're not looking at. He's the one guy I think that could be a lot of problems in that division. That very, very talent-laden division there, from 135 to 145, 147, right around there. That little division there, those little weight classes. I think there's a ton of talent in those divisions. And I think there's going to be a lot of good matches made, but you got to make the matches, and you got to make sense. Got to make sense. Well, finally, I'm going to tell you about today. I'll be doing my first sparring, and I haven't sparred in about, I'm going to say, about a good year. Last time, about a year. I think the last time I did was right around, right before the summer, I believe. I had a neck issue. I got punched over here as I was going around. I was moving one way. I got hit the other way. Pinched my nerve, lost feeling in my hands. and I kind of stayed out of it for a while. But I'm back now. Today will be my first time sparring, and since that long, I think what I do usually is I spar light with people that are a lot less weight than me, because that way I'm not gonna be able to move out of the way as much as I normally do. That is my game. I get out of there. I don't like to get hit there. And then as I go up, I think probably right around late February to early March will be my heavy sparring, where I'll bring guys in that are very tough that fight me. I have a couple guys that are in the 225 range, 230 range that come in, they spar with me. And there's a couple that I will bring in just to do light work, and then I do more conditioning. This will be the first camp where I will do a lot of leg work because I got to make sure that my quad does not tear again, and I got to make sure that I get out of the way there because I know what Sean brings to the table. He's a very hard puncher. He's got over 40 fights. He's been in the national tournament for years, so he has a lot of experience. He's bringing a lot to the table. So my job is to make sure I put on a good show. I got to put on a good show for everybody. Last time was a little disappointing, and I think that's why we wanted to do this rematch. Sean feels he won. I feel I won. I think we're the two ones in this area right now that can fight and draw the most money. So at this point, we've agreed to it. Everything is good. The training is going well. My weight is still hovering at that 213. I can't really start pushing down a little bit because I think what happens is I'm not used to not eating, and I binge a little bit, so that's a little tough, and I'm getting a little cranky because I'm hungry. My wife can tell you that, and just in general, I think I have a lot going on with the kids playing sports, Jackson wrestling, Landon doing unbelievable in basketball. He really is. I don't like to brag, but I mean, he is doing very well. They have a great team. They have these two twins that are very good. They have another kid, this McCabe kid, very good. The team is very good. So there's gonna be a lot there in that basketball team the next few years. I think they're gonna be very happy with that. So that's enough of my life and enough of boxing. But today, in a few hours, we have Brandon Bulletproof Glanton. He's gonna be calling in from, I believe he's home. And when he's home, he said he would call me. He landed last night, but I want him to spend some time with his family. He's been away for a little bit there over in France. He's back. He was back last night. He texted me. He said, I will be on. That being said, don't be envious of what I've accomplished in my life. Be inspired by what you can do in yours. I will see you later on today.
Thanks for watching the Zapata Brand podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and listen where all podcasts are available.